Hello Unigame fans, things are finally beginning to slow down just a tad before everything releases within the next 2 weeks, and then it gets quiet for the holidays, but as always, indie developers are always giving us cool new experiences, so let's begin with the 1.0 release of Void Crew, a 1 to 4 player co-op focused ship management roguelite where you man a spaceship and its various stations, working together to explore the procedurally generated universe, and has been well received so far, but is definitely better if you play together with your friends. Here's a sick looking roguelite deck builder named Claymore of the Lost Kingdom, one that has a gorgeous hand-drawn art style, and while the gameplay is nothing new to write home about, the structure of this is interesting as well. You see, this has a classless RPG progression system, so you can shape your own hero based on which attributes you allocate points to when you level up. Furthermore, this has an open world sandbox structure, so you are free to explore and get stronger, with the ultimate goal of facing the Harbinger of Doom, with various fantasy races to choose from, character backgrounds, skill trees, archetypes and sub-playstyles, and so much more, and would be the hidden gem of the week if it were not already in the top 10. This video is brought to you by Lost But Found, a cartoony hidden object game with a twist, adding in a job simulation aspect and some moral choices that you need to make. You play as an officer in an airport that is in charge of the Lost and Found department, collecting and organizing lost items so that you can return these to their rightful owners in the most time-efficient manner when they come to claim it. However, it is not as simple as it looks, since you need to resist the temptation to pilfer these valuable goods for your own personal gain. Of course, there will be upgrades that you can purchase to make you more efficient at your job, such as a QR code reader, a music player or a wall clock, where you even have a notepad to write down people's numbers if you don't have their item at the moment, and having to call them to come retrieve said item if it shows up another day. They have announced free content updates to come, including the terminals, collectibles, and Fun Town updates, which will continue to add value, but for now, this releases today, 25th November, and is under $5, so if interested, do buy it on Steam. European Association Art France have quite an interesting set of games, including the awesome Vectronorm and smaller, cozier titles like How to Say Goodbye, with their next title being 30 Birds, an art game if I ever saw one, and it's a puzzle adventure game with a cool look. You are exploring Lantern City, which is on the verge of disaster as the goddess has been kidnapped by an evil scientist, so you need to explore this Persian art-inspired world, meet the weird and quirky birds, and solve puzzles in order to rescue her. Exploration in this game looks neat since the city is literally a lantern, so as you explore and walk off the side, you do wrap around, adding both 2D and 3D exploration elements. However, the puzzles don't look like the most complex, so don't go expecting Baba is You or Owls of Sea and Sky here, but still, it looks like a neat little game. Love indie games? Sign up to my newsletter to get a weekly dose of what's hot, along with some news and of course, weekly game giveaways, so if interested, link is in the description below. The developer of Ooze Keeper did reach out, and it did meet many of the criteria that I look for in games, being a pixel art roguelite management title with a monster collecting element. Of course, this is not the first slime-based monster taming game, since those seem to be the easiest to make an entire game out of due to the relatively simple shape, which can be modified as required, where in this game you are running a slime farm but have to meet the rent, looking like some sort of combination of luck be a landlord and slime rancher. The construction of structures will be critical to your strategy, since these generate the resources that you need or speed up production, with the different types of slimes producing different resources as well, and by crossbreeding these, you will be able to make your way up the tech tree to access better and more valuable resources. You will need to balance the selling of items for gold to pay the rent with the upgrading and expansion of your farm, with randomized modifiers and upgrades adding to the replayability. Here's a smaller title that you might not know about, since Guidus Zero is a real-time grid-based roguelite, and you know how I'm a stickler for definitions, so I don't use this term lightly. The closest comparison here would be Crypt of the Necrodancer, but of course, this game is missing the rhythm element of having to move to the beat, which, while easier in some sense, I'm sure that the developers have added their own twist on the formula to ramp up the challenge as games in this genre are known for. You are embarking on an adventure to uncover the secrets of a mysterious gigantic sinkhole known as the Scar, which appeared out of nowhere a long time ago during a period of war, so think Made in Abyss, where you will fight your way down to unravel its mysteries. The real-time action and combat involves moving in and out to fire off your attack, avoiding enemy damage cones and attack ranges, MMORPG style, in order to stay safe, but the number and variety of enemies that the game throws at you will ramp up the challenge. You will also encounter game-changing relics with special powers and can receive blessings from spirits, being able to forge bonds with these to power you up even more, all wrapped up with a fantastic pixel art look and seems promising. Other games begin with Arisen 4's Life Devotee, one that, I hate to say it, does look like Black Myth Wukong at home, since it is a side-scrolling action-adventure RPG that seems to be largely focused on boss battles. This is exploring the story of Journey to the West, a classic Chinese novel that has inspired its fair share of games, movies, TV shows, cartoons and more, where you play as the Monkey King as he battles the various spirits and demons that his party encounters on their pilgrimage. I don't know what the overall strategy of developer Lamport is, since they just released Arisen 4's Hero Test in October and have Arisen 4's Vonimir in development, which I covered in my upcoming pixel art games video, all of them looking to have a similar combat and battle system but with different themes and characters. The combat focus is apparent, since you can attack, evade, block, counter, punish, cancel, and even throw or execute while in combat, which you will need to master in order to defeat the bosses. And most interestingly, this game is completely free on Steam, so why not give it a go, and is the hidden gem of the week. Alright, here's a non-indie game, since the very cute looking live sim title Critter Café is made by Sumo Digital, a huge developer with over 1,000 employees, so make a note of that, since it does try to give off those cozy indie game vibes, which I'm sure some people will get hoodwinked by. However, putting definitions aside, this has you running a little cafe, having to keep your customers and the little critters happy, serving them food and drink and decorating the place. This management aspect is mixed in with an action-adventure style exploration segment with puzzles, where you have to solve these to rescue the critters, all with quite a cute presentation, and it is interesting to see a big developer choosing to make a game like this. There's something about gladiator and physics-based titles that somehow get a tremendous amount of attention, the latest of which is Gladio Mori, a ragdoll physics-based combat title that looks interesting, while minimalist in presentation, and I'm not sure how much of a game that is here. This will have organ-specific damage and a fully customizable moveset, which you can tweak or use pre-made ones by other players for more ragdoll fun, and does remind me of Tori Bash as well, so let's see how it is received. Okay, this one might not have mainstream appeal, but my wife loves the Hero of the Kingdom games, so of course I have to mention the Lost Tales 3 in this video. These are essentially hidden object titles with light RPG elements in which you are clicking on things in the environment to get fish, gather mushrooms, or to fight enemies, taking on various kinds of fetch quests with an okay visual style. Theoretically, this is the third and final episode of the Lost Tales storyline, which is a spin-off of the main Hero of the Kingdom games, so if you want context, you need to play the previous games, but they do kind of work as standalone titles, where essentially in this game, an evil wizard has come to this land and you need to stop him. Yep, that is pretty much as simple as that in terms of narrative, and while it's not the most mind-blowing, insane kind of game, I was curious and played some of the originals and they were simple but fun, so if you are in for a smaller, less intense kind of experience, this will be one to check out. Speaking of less intense experiences, Midori No Kaori, at least I think that's how it's pronounced, is a charming little simulation title in which you are building your own Japanese-themed shop for frogs for some reason. It's another entry in the chill, relaxing game space since there are no winners, losers, points or anything really, being an interactive toy for you to tinker around with and looks pleasant even if the humanoid frogs do kind of freak me out, but I do like the lighting and look of this game. Just a quick one here, in the console ports of Nine Souls, a 2D action platformer with Sekiro-inspired combat, which is potential Game of the Year material. For the record, I don't feel like this is a Metroidvania, since it is fairly linear, but does have that Dark Souls style of level design that loops back to a starting area with a shortcut, but you are not exactly using double jumps and butt stomps to get to new areas. But the parry-focused combat is awesome, so for console players, now's your chance to dive in. A weird release of the week is PockeDate Pocket Dating Simulator, a pixel art dating sim with a PC-98 kind of art style, in which you are doing dating sim stuff like interacting with your date and improving your communication skills. But you don't want to disappoint her. The Steam page does state that the girlfriend character might become increasingly unstable due to issues with the system, so there are certainly some horror game overtones, with this coming to us from the developer of Stonks 9800, so they do know how to make weird titles, with this being free as well, so give it a try. The developer of Puppet Seed sent me an email back in 2023, and it is finally here, being a very weird, very strange looking, party-based CRPG with a creature collecting element that honestly might be kind of jank, but is weird and very unique. The two key features, according to the developer, are permanent, customizable companions and a seamless, non-level gated 3D open world where you will get access to your own hovercraft and can drive across the world to explore. There are 8 playable races to choose from, including bots, statues, marionettes, the Do, Chromes, Soups, Anti-Life and The Field, all of which look weird and unique, having real-time combat that looks hectic as abilities are firing off left and right. There are towns to get to, but appears to be more for the buying and selling of equipment, and maybe, just maybe, might be a little Kenshi-like if I may be so bold, but it sure is strange and interesting to say the least. One look at the strange city, and of course you will start drawing comparisons to Little Nightmares, a horror-tinged 2.5D side-scrolling platformer where a relatively tiny player character is stuck in a nightmarish world and must find a way to survive and escape. Of course, in horror game fashion, the monster designs will be key, and this has all the greatest hits from killer clowns to nurses, creepy dolls, and even a butcher-like enemy, serving as a contrast to the tiny character in this horrific world. It is linear and level-based, with each chapter culminating in an intense final encounter, probably some sort of boss fight or chase sequence, so I do expect to be caught and horrifically murdered, at least until you have attempted the level a few times, but it looks neat and creepy, even if Little Nightmares is a very high bar to compare yourself to. This one's for indie game developers. The free indie game marketing resources are ready, so sign up via the link in the description below to get it in your mailbox. The top 5 begins with Lumin Knight, a detective adventure game with a fantastic hand-drawn art style in which a detective and his daughter must work together to solve a series of murders which dates back over 10 years. Set in the 1950s USA with period-appropriate technology, you must use the full range of detective principles to solve the case, including gathering clues, sneaking and stealth segments, as well as having to think critically to differentiate between which clue is useful and what is a red herring. There will be riddles and puzzles to solve, and in a manner similar to Ace Attorney, you must use logic to refute contradictions between the crime scene and witness testimonies in order to find the true perpetrator, and it looks like a great one of these. A fun-looking strategy title is Wild Country, looking like some sort of digital board game, even if it isn't based on a real-life board game, being a cozy, competitive title with cards and city-building elements. This is on top of having a town to explore in third person, where you're going around and interacting with NPCs to get cards, which are then used in the gameplay portion. It is about constructing buildings to score points, with special events and ability cards used to attack your opponents, so to speak, with the goal being to outsmart and out-earn your rival. There is an expensive story campaign that will see you exploring the Big Sky Canyon, which is filled with anthropomorphic animals, along with various battles critical to the story, and might be similar to something like Card City Nights. Once you are done with the campaign, there is online support for both casual and ranked matches, although player population will be a concern, so I would discount that and focus on the campaign, which might be neat. A highly anticipated release is that of New Arc Line, a new party-based CRPG that has an interesting setting, mixing arcane magic and steampunk, where elves and dwarves exist in the world of zeppelins and Tesla guns. The narrative kicks off when the player character arrives in the city of New Arc, which is built on the shores of the New World, promising a better life and a brighter future, but you are primarily there to seek a cure for your family's fatal disease. But as you settle into this foreign land, you'll discover that the city's beauty is only skin deep, and beneath the surface lies a world of corruption, inequality, and darkness. In CRPG fashion, you will be able to customize your own character, with characteristics like race affecting how other NPCs treat you, so yes, the racism trope even in a fantasy world. In order to survive, you have to make tough decisions and get your hands dirty, choosing which direction to spec your character in, and to make critical decisions when it comes to other characters and scenarios that you may encounter. Of course, you can recruit party members, each with their own companion quest, backstory, and motivations. The turn-based combat is classic for this genre, think Divinity Original Sin, using a variety of skills and abilities, including hellfire magic, voodoo, or even steam-powered armor and weapons to take out your enemies, which includes demonic-looking creatures, so it really is quite the mix. Being in this space, of course it will be compared to Baldur's Gate 3, which is of course the bar in the industry right now, but don't get your expectations up too high, since this will be an early access release after all, but it does have an intriguing setting, so I'll be excited to see more. We have not one but two detective adventure games this week, the second of which is Neon Blood, one that uses pixel art and neon colours, so it gets a slight edge in my book. Set in the year 2053, you play as a former police detective fed up with all the corruption and inequality in this cyberpunk city, and now makes it his goal to tear it all down. Interestingly, this has a turn-based combat system similar to a JRPG, with the associated attacks, skills, and abilities, where you do have your own crew to help out in combat as you take on enemies, which can include some horrific monsters. Exploration is another key feature, where you are free to explore the Macropolis, which includes a dialogue-based detective system, so you can gather clues and talk to characters as well, and looks to have an intriguing mix of ideas. We are beginning to move into a new era of creator-involved video games, from Animal Well to Rivals of Aether 2, since creators are able to show off their game to a huge audience as part of their marketing push, and the next title to capitalize on that is Enigma of Fear. This is a survival horror title with a semi-open world in which you are free to explore, where you play as a paranormal investigator searching for her missing father in a place that is said not to exist, named the Perimeter. It is survival horror stuff as you gather clues and use key items to solve puzzles, also having combat elements and some pretty pixel art mixed in with the 3D environments, with Brazilian YouTuber Cellbit being involved, who has about 6.7 million subscribers, so this could be huge, and it has been a great year for horror games. Watch this video for a preview of pixel art indie games of 2025.